So we're here with Neil Stubley, head groundsman at Wimbledon. This is going to be your 21st tournament here. Tell us a little bit about how you've come to be in a position here at one of the most prestigious sports clubs in the world.
Well, it all happened back in '95 for me. I was still at college doing my turf qualifications, and at the time there, my turf manager was good friends with Eddie Seward, who was the current head groundsman back then, and he got me a placement. So we have 3 placements each year for college students. So I done one in '95, not knowing that one of the guys was retiring. So Eddie was sort of had in his plans that he would take one of the 3 students, and fortunately, I was either the best of the 3 or the worst of the 3. I don't know. So, but yeah, so that's kind of how I got here, and I've progressed through the ranks ever since.
Wonderful. And how long have you been the head groundskeeper here?
Well, my predecessor Eddie kind of in 2011 said that he was going to retire, so we'd done the recruitment in early 2011, and we have a system here that whoever gets the job then has an 18-month handover. So you end up shadowing the head groundsman for 1 championships. You then take the lead for the next championships, and the outgoing head groundsman will then just shadow you just to make sure that you know what you're doing, and then he leaves. So that's an 18-month process. But because I got the job, I'd been here for sort of 17 tournaments beforehand. That handover period wasn't as extensive as it needs to be. So I kind of got the head groundsman designate job in February 2011 and officially took over straight after the Olympics. So for the 2012 championships, I led that championships, and in conjunction with Eddie, we kind of done the Olympics as well. And then from there, I've kind of been in charge. So this will be my 3rd one on my own.
So year round, how many staff do you have working on the courts here, and then how does that change on the lead up to the championships and then throughout the tournament?
Well, full time, including myself, we have 16 full-time members on the ground staff. That includes 2 irrigation engineers and 2 full-time mechanics. I'm also charged with the gardeners as well. So we have 6 full-time gardeners, and they have their own head gardener who reports to me. And then from April through till sort of October, we'll then add another 12 people, 13 people to the ground staff. And then we take another 3 or 4 on for the championship. So for day 1 of the championships, for fully qualified ground staff, we have, I think it's 33 and 12 gardeners. But I also get the court coverers under my remit as well, so I get another 192 of those. So year round I have a full team of 25, because we have another site down the road that's got grass courts as well that I manage. So I go from about 25 full-time members of staff to about 240 for the championships.
And obviously we couldn't talk about Centre Court without talking about Henman Hill or Murray Mound. Is that your responsibility as well?
Yep, so anything to do with soft landscaping anywhere on our 42-acre site, it comes under my remit. So yeah, we have a guy that's responsible for all the Orangi Terrace, as we actually know it officially.
Oh, okay.
So he's in charge of that, and all of the sort of ornamental sort of grassed areas and stuff. Even the grass verges on the outside of our property, we maintain as well.
So during the Murray final a couple of years ago when he won, I think it was about 17.3 million people tuned into view. How does that sort of add any pressure, or does that add any pressure on you as a groundsman, knowing that you've got such a massive global audience?
Yes and no. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to ignore it. I remember when I was on the tools here, I used to mark out centre number 1, and if you think to yourself on men's final morning that there could be anything up to sort of 500 million people watching you globally, then you kind of start to get the wobble. So you just got to sort of look at it as it is. We spend 365 days preparing for the championships, and by the time we get to day 1, we've done as much as we possibly can. So normally when going into the championships, we're always fully confident that the courts will survive everything. And I think it's one of those things that if you're at the top venues around the world, you just have to accept that you're in the front of house, and everybody kind of wants to know the ingredients of what's happened in the courts and how you've what sort of year you've had and everything else. So yeah, it's kind of after 21 tournaments, you kind of start to get used to it a little bit.
Sure. Okay, so obviously during the summer, very famous 2 weeks take place. We know that these courts are obviously in constant action. During the rest of the year, what sort of events take place? What sort of usage do these courts get? And how does that have an impact on the preparation ahead of the championships?
Well, we are essentially a private members club, so we have activity here 365 days of the year. The grass courts officially open the second weekend of May to all of our members, and we close the third week of September. And in between that, the members will start playing, and as you all see today, they are out playing on the grass today. They're allowed to play on all of the courts apart from the two main stadium courts up until the Friday before the championships. So the week leading up to it, when all the players are in practicing, our members will be out there playing with them as well. So and then 2 days after the championships, we have to have courts ready for our members again. And then we will go on through the rest of that season. Through July, August, we'll have quite a heavy schedule of tournaments and club play. We have the UK National Seniors Tournament played here. We have the UK Under-15 Championships here, all played on grass, and they're played on 22 of our 41 grass courts. And then we have a lot of club tournaments as well. And then outside of the grass court season, we then have American clay courts, acrylic courts, indoor centre for our members. So it's a 365-day operation. I have staff in every single day of the year, just preparing playing services for members.
Mm-hmm. And just to follow on a little bit from that, obviously the wheelchair tennis tournament takes place towards the end of the championship as well. What sort of impact does that have on the turf, and do you have to prepare anything differently?
No, the reason why the wheelchair tournament's held at the end of the tournament is because as you go through the tournament, the courts become firmer and harder. So by the time we get to the wheelchair event, the courts are so hard that actually it's better for the player because they can actually move a little bit quicker, and they won't cause anything to damage to the courts just because they're so hard. So, we have 13 different events played here during the championships, which a lot of people don't realise. So, I think it's best part of 657 matches that we get through, and the wheelchair competition is just part of that.
Let's talk a little bit about the preparation of the courts. What goes into them ahead of the championships?
Well, they're all managed exactly the same. So one of the criteria that we get from the ITF, which is the governing body, is that all the courts have to play within the same range. So our mowing regimes, our chemical controls, our seeds, our soils, it's pretty much the same across the board. There are slight tweaks where you get the microclimates for, say, the stadium courts, but essentially every court is managed the same.
So all the courts may be treated the same, but obviously not all the courts are the same. I think we've had a number of tournaments here now with the roof on centre court. How has that impacted the turf care?
Well, I think this year is going to be our 7th championships with the roof, so it didn't have the biggest impact that we all thought it might have. When we designed the roof, the actual southern end of the roof is actually lower than the old roof, so we actually get more sunlight on the court year round. And as you'll see, the roof itself is designed so we can park it all at the north end. We then split it for the championship, so it becomes half and half. But you'll find that actually when the roof's on and the air conditioning's on, we can control the humidity and the temperature within the bowl, which means that the grass is less stressed, so you can actually get away with slightly more play under the roof than you can when it's a nice hot sunny day. So it hasn't really had a massive impact, sort of positively or negatively, to be fair.
So obviously the game has evolved hugely from being sort of a serve and volley game to now being much more fast-paced. How has that impacted the wear and tear on the courts, and how have you had to sort of alter your strategy to cater to that?
Well, actually, back in the mid-90s, we actually looked at how we could sort of better make our courts and make the grass, sort of the longevity of our courts, how we could improve that. So we embarked on looking at the best grasses, best cultivars, and how we manage that playing surface. So because we are a 100% ryegrass, it's a tufted grass, which means that we're not getting the fibrous mat underneath the court anymore like you would with a creeping grass. So that's actually made the courts firmer, which means that it isn't a serve and volley sort of game anymore. And I think it just tied in with the fact that a lot of people were starting to play baseline tennis. So I think it kind of mirrored each other really. We weren't looking to try and to change the game. We were looking at best practice for turf management, and it just so happens that the practice that we have now of phrase mowing every year, it means that we can control the poa annua, we can control the thatch level, which means that it just gives us a completely different game.
Obviously, you mentioned that there's a lot more wear and tear on the baselines in today's game. Have you ever considered Deso technology or a similar technology that would help with that wear and tear?
Well, because of our connection with the SCRI, we are continually looking at new developments across the board. So a lot of the technologies that we use within tennis has been born in a different sport. So we are constantly looking. For us at this stage, the Deso technology probably wouldn't help us purely because our baselines wear out. You're going to expose the fibres, and then there's that potential risk of players slipping on that plastic behind the baseline.